I never imagined my daughter would humiliate me at her own wedding. As Amanda raised her champagne glass and declared, "My chosen family are those who make me happy," I smiled proudly. Then she looked directly at me. "You can leave." 200 guests gasped in unison. My legs trembled as I stood to exit, shame burning through me. But then Jackson, my new son-in-law, rose too. The entire room fell silent. That moment, suspended in time, would change everything between us forever. My Amanda was only 12 years old when her father Thomas died from a sudden heart attack. One moment we were a happy family of 3, living in our modest suburban home in Ohio. And the next, I was a widow, raising a grieving preteen daughter alone. Those early years were the hardest. I took on multiple jobs, working days as a school secretary and evenings waiting tables at the local diner. Sometimes I cleaned houses on weekends too. Sleep became a luxury I could rarely afford. I remember one winter night finding Amanda awake at 2 in the morning, struggling with her math homework. "Mom, you don't have to check this now," she said, noticing my exhaustion. "Go to bed." But I sat with her anyway. The two of us huddled under a blanket because I was keeping the heat low to save money. Those quiet moments together made all the sacrifices worthwhile. Amanda was always exceptionally bright. By 16, she was already talking about becoming an architect. I saved every penny to make sure she could attend the summer program at the state university for high school students interested in design. I still remember how her eyes lit up when she showed me her first building model, a beautiful modern library with walls of glass and elegant lines. "This is going to be your life," I told her, believing it with every fiber of my being. When she was accepted to Cornell University with a partial scholarship, I remortgaged our home to cover the remaining costs. Some of my friends thought I was being foolish. "Rose, you're sacrificing your own retirement," my best friend Judy warned. Maybe she was right, but seeing Amanda graduate with honors made every financial worry seem insignificant. After college, Amanda landed a position at a prestigious architecture firm in Chicago. I helped her move into her first apartment, a tiny studio that cost more per month than our mortgage back home. We spent 3 days painting the walls, assembling furniture, and making that small space feel like home. The distance between us grew naturally as she built her career, but we still talked several times a week. I visited whenever I could afford the trip, and she came home for major holidays. Our relationship felt solid, built on years of shared struggles and triumphs. Then Amanda met Jackson at a charity event where his school was being recognized for community service. He taught 4th grade at a public elementary school in one of Chicago's underserved neighborhoods. When she first told me about him, I could hear the smile in her voice. "Mom, he spends his own money on supplies for his kids," she said, "and he actually listens when I ramble about sustainable design." After 3 failed relationships with ambitious men who seemed to view her as a trophy, Jackson's genuine kindness and commitment to helping others was exactly what my driven daughter needed. The first time I met him was at Thanksgiving, about 6 months after they started dating. Jackson insisted on helping me in the kitchen while Amanda took a work call. "I want to thank you," he said quietly, as we peeled potatoes side by side. I asked him what for. "For raising such an amazing woman," he replied. "Amanda talks about all you did for her growing up, how you never let her see how hard things were." I nearly cried right there over the potato peels. It meant everything to know she understood. Their engagement came almost 2 years later. Amanda called me at midnight, too excited to wait until morning. He proposed on the rooftop garden I designed for the community center, she gushed. "Mom, I want you involved in every step of the wedding planning. Nobody knows me like you do." Those words were a gift I treasured. The next weekend I flew to Chicago and we spent hours looking at wedding magazines, discussing venues and color schemes. Amanda wanted a spring wedding with lots of fresh flowers and natural light. "Like that greenhouse we visited when I was 15, she reminded me. "The one where you said someday I'd get married surrounded by beauty." I remembered that day perfectly. A rare splurge during a difficult financial time. We'd spent hours wandering among exotic plants, escaping the bleakness of February. That she remembered it too. That it had shaped her dream wedding filled my heart with joy. We were closer than we had been in years. I thought this wedding would only strengthen our bond. For 3 months, everything was perfect. We chose a beautiful venue overlooking Lake Michigan. I went with Amanda to try on wedding dresses, sitting in the elegant boutique with tears in my eyes as she emerged in one stunning gown after another. When she finally found the one, a sleek satin dress with delicate beading along the neckline, we both cried. The consultant brought us champagne, and Amanda toasted to the best mom anyone could ask for. Then something changed. It started with small things. Amanda began rescheduling our weekly planning calls. When we did speak, she seemed distracted, even irritated by my suggestions. I tried not to feel hurt, reminding myself how busy she must be with work and wedding preparations. Then came the day I called about the flowers, excited to share some ideas I'd found for centerpieces similar to ones we'd discussed. "Oh, Patricia and I already decided on arrangements," Amanda said casually. Patricia was Jackson's mother, a stylish interior decorator from Wisconsin, who had been pleasant but distant the few times we'd met. "I thought we were deciding on flowers together," I said, trying to keep the disappointment from my voice. "Mom, you can't expect to make every decision," Amanda replied, her tone suddenly sharp. "Patricia has amazing taste, and she's been incredibly helpful." Something in the way she emphasized helpful felt like a slap. I apologized immediately, not wanting to cause tension. But over the next few weeks, I noticed more and more decisions being made without me. The caterer was chosen without my input. The invitations were selected during a shopping trip I hadn't been invited to join. When I finally gathered the courage to ask Amanda directly what was happening, her response left me speechless. "I'm finally establishing some healthy boundaries," she said coolly. "My therapist thinks it's important for my personal growth." Therapist? Amanda had never mentioned seeing a therapist. Before I could ask more, she changed the subject, and I was left wondering what I had done wrong and why my daughter suddenly needed boundaries from the mother who had dedicated her life to her happiness. The months leading up to Amanda's wedding were increasingly painful. I tried calling some of her close friends from college, hoping for insight into what had changed. Melissa, who had been Amanda's roommate for 3 years, was awkwardly evasive. "I think you should really talk to Amanda about this," she said. Lauren, another friend I had always gotten along with, didn't return my calls at all. I felt like I was losing my mind. Had I misremembered our entire relationship? Had Amanda secretly resented me all these years? I spent nights reviewing our interactions, wondering where I had gone wrong. 4 months before the wedding, I received a call from Stephanie, Amanda's maid of honor and oldest friend. We had always had a warm relationship, and I had often included her in our family holidays when her own parents were traveling for work. "Rose, I feel terrible about what's happening," Stephanie said hesitantly. "Amanda made us promise not to talk to you about certain things, but this doesn't feel right." My heart pounded as she continued. "Amanda started seeing this therapist about 8 months ago for some anxiety issues. Somehow the therapy has focused almost entirely on her relationship with you." "What about our relationship?" I asked, my mouth dry. Stephanie sighed deeply. "The therapist has suggested that Amanda's anxiety stems from your parenting style. She's using terms like enmeshed and controlling to describe your relationship. Amanda has started reframing almost every childhood memory through this lens." I felt physically ill. Controlling? I had worked myself to exhaustion to give Amanda choices and opportunities I never had. Yes, I had high expectations for her, but only because I believed in her abilities. Had that been wrong? "The worst part," Stephanie continued reluctantly, "is that Jackson's mother has been incredibly supportive of this new narrative. She's positioning herself as the mother figure Amanda supposedly never had." The betrayal cut deep. I thanked Stephanie for her honesty and promised not to mention our conversation to Amanda. After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen and wept for hours. When I finally gathered myself enough to reach out to Amanda directly, she was cold and dismissive. "I'm really busy with work and wedding stuff, Mom. I don't have time for another emotional conversation." "Emotional conversation?" Amanda, we've barely spoken in weeks. I just want to understand what's happening between us. Nothing is happening, she said with exaggerated patience. I'm just focused on my wedding and my future with Jackson. Not everything is about you. The accusation stunned me into silence. Had I made things about me? I apologized again and retreated, more confused than ever. As the wedding drew closer, our interactions became limited to impersonal logistics. How many of my relatives were attending? What time I should arrive at the hotel? Amanda never asked for my opinion on anything meaningful, and I became afraid to offer it. Then came the final blow. 1 week before the wedding, I was reviewing the reception schedule the wedding planner had emailed when I noticed something missing. The mother-daughter dance. Amanda and I had already chosen the song, What a Wonderful World, which had special meaning for us. Thomas used to sing it while dancing with Amanda standing on his feet when she was little, and after he died, I had continued the tradition. I called Amanda immediately, thinking it must be an oversight. It's not a mistake, she said flatly when I asked about the dance. But we already chose the song, I protested, my voice breaking. I've decided to do a special dance with Dad's photograph instead, she replied. The photographer thinks it will make for really meaningful pictures. I couldn't hold back my tears. Amanda, please don't cut me out of your day like this. I don't understand what's happening. Her voice turned hard. This is exactly why I made these changes. You're making my wedding about your feelings again. This is my day, Mom. I'm reclaiming it to celebrate my way. You should be grateful you're still invited. The words hit like physical blows. Grateful to be invited to my only child's wedding? What had happened to my loving daughter? I hung up without responding, too hurt to form words. That evening, as I sat in my darkened living room wondering if I should even attend the wedding, my phone buzzed with a text message from an unexpected source. Jackson. Rose, we need to talk before the wedding. There are things you should understand. Can we meet tomorrow at Carter's Cafe at 2? Please come alone and don't tell Amanda. I stared at the message for a long time, anxiety and hope warring within me. What did Jackson know? Was he part of whatever had turned Amanda against me, or was he as confused as I was? Either way, I knew I had to meet him. This might be my last chance to understand what had gone so terribly wrong with my daughter. Carter's Cafe was a quiet place near the university where Jackson taught. I arrived early, choosing a table in the corner where we wouldn't be overheard. My hands trembled slightly as I sipped my tea, watching the door. Jackson arrived precisely at 2, looking tired and troubled. He spotted me immediately and walked over, leaning down to kiss my cheek before sitting across from me. Thank you for coming, Rose, he said, his voice low and serious. I know things have been difficult between you and Amanda lately. I tried to smile. That's quite an understatement. My daughter seems to have developed a completely new version of our history together. One where I'm the villain. Jackson nodded slowly. That's why I wanted to meet. I'm concerned about what's happening, and I thought you deserved some context. He ordered coffee and waited until the server had left before continuing. About 8 months ago, Amanda started having panic attacks. The first one happened during a big presentation at work. She was terrified it would happen again and affect her career. This was news to me. She never told me about any panic attacks. She didn't want to worry you, Jackson said. She found a therapist through a colleague's recommendation. Dr. Winters specializes in something called family constellation therapy. Have you heard of it? I shook my head. It focuses on how family dynamics affect our current problems. The theory itself isn't bad, but he hesitated, choosing his words carefully. The way it's being applied in Amanda's case seems extreme. Dr. Winters became fixated on Amanda's relationship with you almost immediately. But why? What have I done that's so terrible? Jackson sighed. According to Dr. Winters, your close relationship with Amanda created unhealthy enmeshment. She believes Amanda's anxiety stems from trying to live up to your expectations and that she needs to individuate by creating distance. The unfairness of it made my chest tight. I had high hopes for Amanda because I saw how talented and intelligent she was. What parent wouldn't want their child to succeed? I know, Rose. I've tried to point out that there's a difference between supportive parenting and controlling behavior. But Dr. Winters has encouraged Amanda to re-examine her childhood through a specific lens. And now Amanda sees pressure and manipulation where there was love and sacrifice. I felt tears threatening and blinked them back. So, my daughter has been convinced that her loving mother is actually some kind of emotional abuser? And this is a legitimate therapeutic approach? Jackson looked uncomfortable. There's something else you should know, and this is the part that really troubles me. Patricia, my mother, has been attending some of Amanda's therapy sessions. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Your mother is going to my daughter's therapy? How is that appropriate? It's not, Jackson admitted. When Amanda first mentioned her therapist's suggestion to bring Patricia into a session, I questioned it. Dr. Winters claimed it would help Amanda establish healthier maternal boundaries by having a supportive maternal figure present. I didn't realize at the time how this would evolve. I struggled to keep my voice steady. So while I've been excluded from my daughter's life, your mother has been positioning herself as my replacement with a therapist's blessing? Jackson ran a hand through his hair. That's why I wanted to talk to you. The relationship between Amanda and my mother has become uncomfortably close. They go shopping together, have lunch several times a week. Patricia has been involved in every aspect of the wedding planning. And you're just now concerned about this? His expression was pained. I've been concerned for months, but whenever I question anything related to the therapy, Amanda accuses me of not supporting her growth. Dr. Winters has implied that my concerns stem from my own family issues. I sat back, taking this in. So this therapist has effectively isolated Amanda from both me and your doubts, while encouraging a relationship with your mother. Doesn't that seem strange to you? It does, Jackson admitted, especially after I did some research on Dr. Winters. She's had complaints filed against her by other clients for similar issues, encouraging family estrangement based on reframed memories. My stomach knotted with anger and fear for my daughter. Have you told Amanda about these complaints? I tried. She accused me of trying to undermine her healing process. He leaned forward, his voice urgent. Rose, I love your daughter, and I know how much you love her too. I don't want our marriage to start with this wedge between her and her mother. The sincerity in his eyes gave me my first hope in months. What can we do? She won't listen to me, and apparently she won't listen to you either. I don't know yet, he said honestly. But I wanted you to understand what we're dealing with. This isn't just wedding stress, or Amanda suddenly deciding you were a bad mother. This is something more complicated. As our conversation wound down, Jackson shared one final piece of information that chilled me. Patricia has been encouraging Amanda to write you out of the wedding completely. The fact that you're still included at all is because I insisted. Why does your mother dislike me so much? I asked, genuinely confused. We've barely interacted. Jackson looked deeply uncomfortable. My father left when I was young. My mother raised me alone, like you raised Amanda. But unlike you, she's never gotten over her bitterness. She's always been jealous of happy mother-child relationships. He paused. And I think she's jealous of the life you've built independently, while she still defined herself solely as my mother. As we prepared to leave, I touched Jackson's arm. Thank you for telling me the truth. Whatever happens at the wedding, I appreciate your honesty. He gave me a sad smile. Just don't give up on Amanda. The daughter you raised is still in there somewhere, underneath all this therapeutic misdirection. I drove home with my mind racing. The wedding was 5 days away. I had no idea what to expect or how to prepare myself for whatever might happen. But for the first time in months, I didn't feel completely alone in my confusion and pain. Jackson saw what was happening, even if he didn't yet know how to fix it. And despite everything, I still had hope that my real daughter, the one I had raised and loved with every fiber of my being, would eventually find her way back to me. The morning of Amanda's wedding dawned bright and clear, a perfect spring day. I woke early after a restless night, my stomach tight with anxiety. Despite everything, I was determined to approach the day with positivity. This was still my daughter's wedding day, a milestone I had dreamed of sharing with her since she was small. I dressed carefully in the dusty rose gown we had chosen together months ago, before everything changed. Around my neck, I fastened the pearl necklace Thomas had given me on our 10th anniversary. In my purse, I placed a small blue velvet box containing my grandmother's sapphire bracelet, a family heirloom I had always promised would be Amanda's something blue on her wedding day. The ceremony was scheduled for 3 in the afternoon at a beautiful glass-enclosed garden pavilion overlooking Lake Michigan. I arrived at 1, hoping to see Amanda before she walked down the aisle. The venue was already bustling with vendors arranging flowers and setting up chairs. "I'm the mother of the bride," I explained to the wedding coordinator, a brisk young woman with a clipboard. I was hoping to see Amanda before the ceremony. The coordinator consulted her notes with a slight frown. The bride requested no visitors except for the bridal party, and Mrs. Sullivan, Patricia Sullivan, Jackson's mother. "Surely that doesn't include me," I said, trying to keep the hurt from my voice. "I'm sorry, but your name is specifically listed under restricted access," she replied, looking uncomfortable. "Perhaps you could join the other guests in the reception area until the ceremony begins?" I retreated, cheeks burning with humiliation. My own daughter had put me on a restricted list, as if I were a threat rather than her mother. Still, I composed myself, determined not to cause a scene. In the reception area, I noticed Patricia holding court among several guests, elegant in a designer suit the exact color of Amanda's bridesmaids' dresses. When she spotted me, she offered a thin smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Rose, so glad you could make it," she said with artificial warmth. "Amanda was worried you might not come after your little disagreement." Before I could respond, the doors to the ceremony space opened, and guests began filing in. I moved to take my seat in the front row, traditionally reserved for parents of the bride and groom. An usher stopped me gently. "Mrs. Lawrence, you're seated in row 3, center section." I stared at him in disbelief. There must be a mistake. I'm the mother of the bride. He looked deeply uncomfortable. "I'm following the seating chart, ma'am. Row 3, seat 4. I walked numbly to my assigned seat, aware of curious glances from other guests. The front row held empty spaces, labeled "Reserved for Sullivan Family" with Patricia's name prominently displayed. My daughter had literally displaced me from my rightful place at her wedding. Despite the hurt, I sat straight and composed as the ceremony began. The music swelled, and bridesmaids in flowing sage green dresses processed down the aisle. Then came Amanda, breathtakingly beautiful in her wedding gown, escorted by her father's oldest brother, my brother-in-law Frank, another blow. She hadn't even asked if I wanted to walk her down the aisle. Throughout the ceremony, I maintained a serene expression, though inside I was crumbling. The vows were beautiful, Jackson's face full of love as he promised to cherish Amanda forever. When they were pronounced husband and wife, I applauded with everyone else, genuinely happy for them despite everything. The reception was held in an elegant ballroom adjacent to the ceremony space. Again, I found myself seated far from the main wedding party table, placed instead with distant relatives of Jackson's family whom I'd never met. I made polite conversation, hiding my pain behind practiced smiles. After dinner, I gathered my courage and approached Amanda with my grandmother's bracelet. She was standing with Patricia and several bridesmaids, champagne flute in hand. "Amanda, you look absolutely beautiful," I said sincerely. "I wanted to give you this. It was your great-grandmother's." Amanda barely glanced at the velvet box. "Thanks, Mom. You can just leave it with the other gifts." "But it's meant to be your something blue," I explained, my voice small. "It's the family tradition we talked about." Patricia interjected smoothly. "Oh, Amanda already has her something blue. I had my sapphire earrings reset for her. She's wearing them now." Amanda touched the sparkling blue stones at her ears, nodding. "They're perfect, aren't they?" I retreated, clutching the velvet box, feeling as if my family history was being erased before my eyes. Then came the moment that would change everything. The DJ announced it was time for toasts, and Amanda stood, champagne glass raised. The room quieted as she began to speak. "I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate with us today," she said, smiling radiantly. "A wedding is about creating a new family, and I'm so blessed by the amazing family I've chosen." She looked pointedly at Patricia, her bridesmaids, and Jackson's family. "My chosen family are those who make me happy, who support me without conditions, who respect my boundaries and my growth." Murmurs of approval and scattered applause followed this statement. Then Amanda turned, her eyes finding me in the crowd. Her expression hardened almost imperceptibly. Some people can't accept when relationships need to change, when old patterns need to end for new growth to begin. The room grew uncomfortably quiet. This day is about moving forward, not being held back by the past. So, she raised her glass higher, to chosen family and new beginnings. As guests uncertainly lifted their glasses, Amanda looked directly at me again. "Mom, I think it would be best if you left now. This celebration is for people who truly support me." The silence that followed was deafening. 200 pairs of eyes turned toward me, expressions ranging from shock to pity to morbid curiosity. Humiliation burned through me like fire. Somehow I found the strength to stand, though my legs felt like water. I clutched my purse, the velvet box still inside, and prepared to walk out of my daughter's wedding with whatever dignity I could muster. But then something unexpected happened. Jackson stood up as well, his chair scraping loudly in the silence. His face was a mixture of disbelief and determination as he looked at his new wife, then at me, then back at Amanda. The entire room held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The silence in that ballroom was absolute, as Jackson reached for the microphone in Amanda's hand. She released it, looking confused and slightly annoyed. "I need to say something," Jackson said, his voice steady, though I could see the tension in his shoulders. "What just happened is not okay." Amanda stared at him, clearly stunned that he would contradict her publicly on their wedding day. Patricia started to rise from her seat, but Jackson held up his hand. "Please, Mom, not now," he said firmly, before addressing the room again. "Most of you know that I teach 4th grade. One of the first things we learn about in my classroom is family. Not just the families we're born into, but the ones we build throughout our lives." He paused, looking around the room. "Family is precious in all its forms. But there's something profoundly wrong with the idea that we should discard people who have loved us our entire lives because they don't fit some new narrative we've created." Amanda tugged at his sleeve, whispering something that looked like, "Stop it," but Jackson continued. "I fell in love with Amanda partly because of the stories she told me about her childhood, about a mother who worked 3 jobs to send her to architecture camp, who stayed up all night helping with projects and college applications, who believed in her dreams so completely that Amanda never doubted she could achieve them." My heart pounded as I remained standing, frozen in place. Was he really defending me? Before Amanda started therapy with Dr. Winters, Jackson continued, causing a ripple of whispers through the room. She spoke of her mother with nothing but love and gratitude. Rose was her hero, the woman who showed her what strength really looks like. Amanda's face had gone pale. "Jackson, this is inappropriate," she hissed, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "What's inappropriate is telling your mother to leave our wedding," Jackson replied, not unkindly but firmly. "What's inappropriate is rewriting your entire history based on 8 months of questionable therapy." He turned to face me directly. "Rose, please don't leave. You belong here more than almost anyone." I couldn't speak, overwhelmed by his unexpected support. Amanda grabbed for the microphone. "You don't understand. My therapist has helped me see that my relationship with my mother was unhealthy. I need boundaries for my own well-being." Jackson didn't release the microphone. "Is this really about boundaries, Amanda? Or is it about replacing your mother with someone who doesn't challenge you to examine your choices?" The guests shifted uncomfortably. This was far more drama than anyone had expected at a wedding reception. I wished I could sink into the floor, even as I was grateful for Jackson's intervention. Then Patricia stood, her face flushed with anger or embarrassment, perhaps both. "Jackson, you're making a scene at your own wedding. This is hardly the time or place for family therapy." "Actually," Jackson replied calmly, If we're going to start our marriage with honesty, this is exactly the time and place to address what's been happening. Patricia walked briskly to the head table, reaching for the microphone. Amanda has been working very hard on her personal growth. Rose may have been a dedicated mother, but she's had difficulty letting Amanda become her own person. My mouth fell open at this blatant mischaracterization. I had always encouraged Amanda's independence, celebrated her ambitions, supported her choices. Jackson didn't yield the microphone. Mom, with all due respect, you've been inappropriately involved in Amanda's therapy from the beginning. You've positioned yourself as a replacement for Rose, and that's not your role. Patricia's carefully maintained composure cracked slightly. I've only tried to support Amanda when she needed someone who understood boundaries. Have you? Jackson challenged. Or have you seen an opportunity to have the daughter you always wanted, to be the central maternal figure in a way you've resented not being in my life since I became an adult? Patricia gasped. How dare you suggest such a thing? I've only had Amanda's best interests at heart. Then why? Jackson asked quietly. Did you tell Amanda that Rose was planning to wear white to our wedding, when you knew that was a lie? Why did you suggest that Rose was trying to control the wedding planning when she was merely trying to stay involved as Amanda had initially asked her to be? I stared in shock. I had done neither of those things. Patricia's face flushed deeper. I never said those things. Yes, you did, came a new voice. Stephanie, Amanda's maid of honor, had stood up. I was there when you told Amanda that Rose had called the florist behind her back to change the arrangements. That never happened either. The room erupted in murmurs. Amanda was looking back and forth between Patricia and Stephanie, confusion evident on her face. And why? Jackson continued relentlessly. Did you recommend Dr. Winters specifically, when you knew she had been reported to the state licensing board twice for ethics violations related to encouraging family estrangement? This revelation caused audible gasps. Amanda's expression shifted from confusion to shock. That's a lie, Patricia insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. I have the public records, Jackson replied. I did my research when I became concerned about the direction of Amanda's therapy. Dr. Winters was formally reprimanded last year for creating false narratives of parental alienation with another client. Amanda sank slowly back into her chair, the color draining from her face. What are you saying, Jackson? He turned to her, his expression softening. I'm saying that I think you've been manipulated by both my mother and your therapist. I'm saying that before you publicly reject the woman who has loved you your entire life, you should consider whether the story you're now telling yourself about her is actually true. The silence that followed was broken by a soft sob. To my surprise, it came from Amanda. She looked utterly lost, her carefully constructed certainty crumbling before everyone's eyes. It was at this moment that Patricia made her final play. Amanda, don't listen to him. This is exactly the kind of manipulation your therapist warned you about. They're trying to make you doubt yourself, doubt your own memories. Jackson shook his head sadly. No, Mom. We're asking Amanda to remember her real memories, not the reframed versions Dr. Winters has encouraged. I couldn't stay silent any longer. Finding a strength I didn't know I possessed, I spoke clearly across the stunned reception. Amanda, I have never wanted anything but your happiness. If you truly want me to leave, I will. But please know that whatever you've come to believe, my love for you has always been unconditional. The simple truth of those words seemed to hang in the air. Amanda looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in months. Something flickered in her eyes, a moment of recognition, of the daughter I had raised. The tension was broken by an outraged voice from the back of the room. This is completely unprofessional and unethical. A slim woman in her 50s pushed through the crowd. Dr. Winters, I presumed, though we had never met. Amanda has been making excellent progress in establishing healthy boundaries. This public intervention is completely inappropriate. Jackson turned to her, his expression hard. What's inappropriate is a therapist attending her client's wedding, especially one who has been reported for ethical violations related to family estrangement. Dr. Winters bristled. I was invited as a friend and supporter. No, Jackson said firmly. You were invited as part of a campaign to separate Amanda from her mother, and I think you should leave now. Security guards appeared, summoned by the wedding planner who seemed to sense the situation spiraling out of control. Dr. Winters protested, but ultimately allowed herself to be escorted out, throwing one last meaningful look at Amanda, who sat frozen in her chair. The reception had become a tableau of shocked faces and uncomfortable silence. In the middle of it all, Amanda suddenly looked very young and vulnerable, her certainty shattered, her wedding day transformed into a public reckoning she had never anticipated. As Dr. Winters was escorted out, the wedding reception teetered on the edge of complete disaster. Guests exchanged uncomfortable glances, unsure whether to leave or stay. The wedding planner hovered anxiously nearby, clearly uncertain how to proceed. Patricia attempted to take control of the situation. Well, this has been quite dramatic, she said with forced lightness. Perhaps we should move on to the cake cutting and give the happy couple a moment to compose themselves? Amanda remained seated, looking shell-shocked. Jackson stood protectively beside her, his hand on her shoulder. I stood frozen in place, wanting desperately to go to my daughter but afraid of making things worse. Then, gathering all my courage, I moved toward the head table. Not to confront or accuse, but simply to be present. Amanda, I said gently, I'm so sorry this day has become about these issues rather than your happiness. She looked up at me, her makeup smeared by tears. I don't understand what's happening, she whispered. Everything felt so clear until today. Patricia interjected sharply. What's happening is that your boundaries are being violated, just as your therapist warned might happen. Jackson turned to his mother, his expression hardening. Mom, I think you've said enough. Clearly I haven't said enough, Patricia snapped. Amanda has spent months working through her issues with her mother, and now you're undermining all that progress because you can't stand up to Rose's manipulation. Something in me finally broke, not in anger, but in a calm determination to speak my truth. May I address everyone? I asked quietly. Jackson handed me the microphone without hesitation. I took a deep breath and faced the room full of witnesses to this painful family drama. I want to apologize to all of you for being part of turning what should have been a joyful celebration into something else entirely. That was never my intention. I paused, gathering my thoughts. For those who don't know me, I'm Rose Lawrence, Amanda's mother. The room was utterly silent. When my husband Thomas died 14 years ago, leaving me alone with our 12-year-old daughter, I made a promise to him and to myself that Amanda would have every opportunity to thrive despite our loss. I worked multiple jobs, went without sleep, sacrificed my own dreams so that hers could flourish. I looked directly at Amanda. Not because I wanted to control you, sweetheart, or because I needed you to fulfill my ambitions, but because I saw your brilliance, your passion, your potential, and I wanted the world for you. Amanda's eyes filled with fresh tears. Was I a perfect mother? Absolutely not. I was too strict sometimes. I pushed when perhaps I should have listened. I made countless mistakes. But everything I did was motivated by love, never control. I turned slightly toward Patricia. I don't know exactly what's happened over these past months. I don't understand why my daughter has been encouraged to rewrite our history together. But I know my own heart. And I know the daughter I raised. From the middle of the reception, a woman stood up. It was Mrs. Chen, Amanda's high school art teacher. I remember when Amanda was struggling with her portfolio for college applications, she said clearly. Rose took on extra shifts to pay for additional art supplies and brought dinner to both of us at the studio so Amanda could work late. That's not controlling behavior. That's extraordinary support. Another voice joined in. Mark, Amanda's first boyfriend from high school, who had been invited with his wife. When Amanda and I broke up senior year, Rose called to check on me, make sure I was okay. She brought me cookies and told me I would always be welcome in their home. What kind of controlling mother does that? One by one, people from different parts of Amanda's life stood to share their memories. Her college roommate, a colleague from her firm, Each story painted a picture not of a manipulative, controlling mother, but of a woman who had devoted herself to her daughter's well-being and happiness. Amanda was openly crying now, confusion evident in her expression. "But Dr. Winters said," she began, then stopped, uncertain. I approached my daughter slowly, kneeling beside her chair so we were at eye level. "Amanda, I don't know what Dr. Winters said, but I know that I have loved you every day of your life with everything I am. If I've hurt you or failed you in ways I don't understand, I want to know, so I can do better. But please, don't throw away our relationship based on a reinterpretation of our history that doesn't align with the truth." Patricia made one last attempt. "Amanda, don't let them manipulate you with sentimentality. Remember what we've discussed about your anxiety, about the pressure you've felt your whole life to live up to impossible expectations." Amanda turned to Patricia, something shifting in her expression. "The expectations were never from my mother," she said slowly, as if realizing it for the first time. "They were mine. Mom always told me I could be whatever made me happy." She looked at me, really looked at me, perhaps for the first time in months. She worked at a job she hated so I could attend the schools I wanted. She wore the same winter coat for 10 years so I could have drawing classes and architecture camps. Her voice grew stronger. When I got rejected from my first-choice college, she held me while I cried, then helped me appeal the decision with a better portfolio. She never made me feel like a disappointment. Amanda turned to Patricia, her expression hardening. "But you did. You commented on my weight at our first meeting. You criticized my choice of wedding dress as too simple. You suggested I should have chosen a more prestigious firm to work for." Patricia paled. "I was only trying to help you see your worth." "No," Amanda said with sudden clarity. "You were trying to create division between me and my mother. And I let you, because Dr. Winters made me believe that my anxiety was my mother's fault, rather than my own perfectionism." The wedding planner approached tentatively. "Would the family perhaps like to continue this discussion privately? We could ask the guests to move to the garden terrace for a while." Amanda shook her head. "No, these people are here because they care about us, and they deserve to see the truth." She stood shakily, taking the microphone from me. "I owe everyone an apology, especially my mother. I've been influenced by people who didn't have my best interests at heart. I've allowed myself to believe things that weren't true because it was easier than facing my own issues." She turned to me, her voice breaking. "Mom, can you ever forgive me for what I just did to you? For everything I've said and done these past months?" In that moment, nothing else mattered. Not the public humiliation, not the months of hurt and confusion. My daughter needed me, and I would always be there for her. "There's nothing to forgive," I said softly. "I love you, Amanda. Nothing will ever change that." And then, for the first time in what felt like forever, my daughter was in my arms, sobbing against my shoulder like she used to do as a little girl. I held her tightly, my own tears flowing freely. The guests witnessing this scene seemed to collectively exhale. Some were wiping away tears, others nodding in understanding or relief. Even in its messiness, truth had a power that resonated with everyone present. Patricia stood alone, her carefully constructed position of influence crumbling before her eyes. Jackson approached his mother, speaking too quietly for others to hear. After a brief, intense exchange, she gathered her purse and left the reception without another word. As Amanda and I continued to hold each other, the room slowly came back to life around us. The band began to play softly. Conversations resumed. Somehow, impossibly, the wedding reception continued, transformed by the raw honesty that had just transpired, but not destroyed by it. The remainder of Amanda and Jackson's wedding reception unfolded in a way none of us could have predicted that morning. After our emotional reconciliation, Amanda asked the DJ to play What a Wonderful World, and she and I shared the mother-daughter dance we had originally planned, both of us teary-eyed but smiling. The guests applauded warmly, the earlier tension replaced by a palpable sense of relief and genuine joy. Jackson approached us as the dance ended, enveloping both of us in a hug. "I'm sorry it happened this way," he whispered, "but I'm not sorry for the truth coming out." Amanda looked up at her new husband with a mixture of embarrassment and gratitude. I can't believe I almost let other people convince me to cut my mother out of my life, out of our life together. The important thing is that it didn't happen, I reassured her. We're here now, together. As the evening progressed, Amanda and I found a quiet moment on the venue's terrace overlooking Lake Michigan. The spring air was cool but not cold, stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Mom, I need to understand what happened to me, Amanda said quietly. How did I get so turned around that I believed such terrible things about you, about our relationship? I took her hand gently. Sometimes, when we're vulnerable, people with their own agendas can influence us in ways we don't recognize until later. But I'm not usually so easily manipulated, she protested. I'm a grown woman with a successful career. How could I have been so blind? Dr. Winters caught you at a vulnerable time, I suggested. You were experiencing anxiety, planning a wedding, feeling pressure at work, and she offered you a simple explanation for complex feelings, an external source to blame rather than having to look inward. Amanda nodded slowly. And Patricia was so supportive of that narrative, so eager to step into the role of good mother. It felt validating somehow, having this sophisticated, wealthy woman treat me like the daughter she never had. We all have vulnerabilities, sweetheart. Even strong, brilliant architects who seem to have everything together. She smiled wryly at that, then grew serious again. The things I said to you, the way I treated you these past months, I don't know how to make that right. You don't need to make it right, I assured her. We just move forward from here, together, with more awareness and open communication. I want to understand why this happened, though, Amanda insisted. I need to make sure it never happens again. Jackson joined us then, bringing glasses of champagne. The last toast is about to happen, he explained, but I wanted us to have our own private toast first. We clinked glasses gently as the lake breeze rustled around us. To family, Jackson said firmly. Real family, with all its complications and imperfections and unconditional love. To truth, Amanda added, and the courage to face it, even when it's painful. To new beginnings, I concluded, and the wisdom to cherish what matters most. As we returned to the reception, Amanda linked her arm through mine. I want us to start fresh, she said. Maybe we could see a different therapist together, someone ethical, to help us understand what happened and how to build an even stronger relationship moving forward. I'd like that very much, I told her. The weeks following the wedding were not without challenges. Amanda canceled all future appointments with Dr. Pymes at appointments. Winters and filed a formal complaint with the state licensing board, providing detailed information about how the therapist had encouraged family estrangement based on reframed memories. Patricia remained distant, though Jackson maintained limited contact with his mother. She needs to do her own work, he explained to us over dinner one evening, about a month after the wedding. Until she can acknowledge her role in what happened and take responsibility for it, I don't think it's healthy for any of us to pretend everything's fine. Amanda nodded in agreement. I feel terrible that our relationship has suffered because of this, but I understand your position. Family relationships have to be based on honesty and respect. We had begun seeing a new therapist, Dr. Morgan, a compassionate woman with extensive experience in family dynamics. In our sessions, Amanda was able to articulate some genuine frustrations from our past, smaller hurts, and misunderstandings that had been exaggerated and distorted during her work with Dr. Canellans-Frest. Winters, but had real roots that deserved attention. I did sometimes feel like nothing I achieved was quite enough, Amanda admitted during one particularly emotional session. Not because you explicitly said so, Mom, but because I saw how hard you worked for me, what you sacrificed. I felt I had to be perfect to justify all you'd given up. I had never realized this pressure she'd placed on herself. Oh, sweetheart, I never wanted you to feel that burden. Everything I did was freely given, with no expectation of repayment. These honest conversations allowed us to develop a healthier adult relationship, one based on mutual respect and understanding, rather than unspoken expectations or assumptions. 6 months after the wedding, Amanda and Jackson invited me to Sunday dinner at their new home, a charming brownstone they'd purchased in a quiet neighborhood. The autumn light streamed through tall windows as we shared a meal Amanda had cooked, laughing and talking with an ease that felt both familiar and new. As we finished dessert, Amanda reached for Jackson's hand, a significant look passing between them. "Mom, we have something to tell you," she said, her face glowing with happiness. My heart skipped a beat, hoping for what I thought might be coming. "We're pregnant," Amanda announced. "You're going to be a grandmother." Joy bubbled up inside me, pure and overwhelming. "Oh my goodness, when? How far along are you?" "Just 12 weeks," she explained. "We wanted to wait until the first trimester was over to start telling people. And we wanted you to be the first to know." I hugged them both, tears of happiness spilling over. "There's something else," Amanda added when we had settled back into our seats. "This journey to parenthood has made me think a lot about what kind of mother I want to be." She took a deep breath. And I realized that despite the confusion of the past year, I had the most amazing example right in front of me my whole life. Her words touched me deeply. "You'll be a wonderful mother, Amanda. You have so much love to give." "I'm also terrified," she admitted with a nervous laugh. "I don't know the first thing about babies or children." "No new parent does," I assured her. "You learn as you go, one day at a time." She reached across the table to take my hand. Would you help guide me through this? Be part of this journey with us? I can't imagine doing this without your wisdom and support." In that moment, the last pieces of hurt from the wedding day fell away completely. My daughter wanted me by her side as she became a mother herself, the circle of life continuing in the most beautiful way. "I would be honored," I told her, squeezing her hand. "Absolutely honored." Later, as we sat in their small garden watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold, I reflected on the tumultuous journey we had traveled. From the depths of rejection and pain to this moment of perfect connection and hope, we had found our way back to each other. Life rarely unfolds as we expect it to. Relationships, especially the closest ones, can be tested in ways we never anticipate. But I had learned that with honesty, courage, and the willingness to stand for truth even when it's difficult, broken bonds can be mended, sometimes emerging stronger than before. As the stars began to appear overhead, I silently thanked Jackson for his brave stand that wedding day, Amanda for finding her way back to herself, and the universe for the precious second chance we had all been given. In the end, I realized family is both our greatest vulnerability and our greatest strength. The love that makes rejection so painful is the same love that makes reconciliation possible. And that love, honest and enduring, is the most powerful force in our lives. Have you ever experienced a moment when speaking your truth, even when it was difficult, led to healing and reconciliation? I hope my story encourages you to believe in the power of honest communication and the resilience of family bonds. If you found value in this journey, please like this video, subscribe to hear more stories of hope and healing, share with someone who might need this message, and comment below with your thoughts or experiences. Thank you for joining me in this deeply personal story, and I wish you courage in your own family relationships, whatever challenges they may hold.